Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Disruptors, let me ask you something. What if the reason you feel stretched isn't because you need better strategy? Just for a moment, think about that, because I am one that's big on strategy. Hello, global workforce life and business strategist, right? But because your internal operating system is overloaded, this is something I've been exploring in my own life and with the people closest to me. But here's the thing, think about it. What if the problem also wasn't necessarily your calendar? Because you are a high achiever. You know you can go fast at doing things, getting things done, you're efficient. But all of a sudden there's lag. So my question is, and y'all probably not going to be surprised, what if it's your mind? Today's episode is for founders, executives, and high achievers, and those who are on the path to becoming also. The people who look successful on paper, but internally you feel like you're just burning and just running on fumes often. Because here's the truth. You cannot lead clearly if your nervous system is hijacked. You cannot make strategic decisions if you're stressed out and you're constantly in an internal state of conflict with yourself. And today's guest, she is bringing a powerful framework around that. We are speaking with Tracey Gazel. She is the founder of Calm Clarity OS, a system that they created for leadership operations, and it's rooted in neuroscience, sleep science, and leadership psychology. And just knowing that we're actually where I'm getting to chat with Tracey today has me thinking, where are all my peeps? They should be listening to this episode now and not until it's published. But you are listening in because it's published. So grab a few people and say, come through, because we're going to calm the turmoil within. She's also going to help us with disrupting what we think performance really requires and reallocate our minds in the direction that we want it to go with strategy. So yeah, if you're a strategist and you're a junkie about methods, she's going to help us with that too. Tracey, I'm excited to welcome you to Mindset Mastery Moments. In your own words, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's wonderful. So yes, thanks for the wonderful introduction. I'm Tracey Gazel. I work with executives, CEOs, and founders. I work with them primarily to enhance calm clarity, so mental clarity and focus, particularly in high-pressure environments, and as well as this year, a big word seems to be uncertainty. So leading through uncertainty, inspiring others, inspiring your workforce as we move through uncertainty. And so a big part of leading through that uncertainty is having the inner stability within yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
That is so key, which, as we both know, really starts with mindset. And when we have that inner stability, then we lead others by example, and we put others at ease knowing that they're safe, they're psychologically safe in their work environment, and that they can go forward through this year where we have so many things going on, whether it be the world, the news, the economy, the politics, you name it. There's a lot going on. And so it's a great time to tap into that space of Calm Clarity OS. And I call it OS because it's like an operating system, just like a computer has an operating system. We also have this built in within us, but so many of us have forgotten that it's even there. Because the busier that we get in our minds, the more that we think ourselves away from this natural innate state that we already have within us. So it becomes a practice of catching ourselves with our thinking, noticing our habits of thinking, noticing where our minds like to go, so that we can bring ourselves back and anchor into calm clarity. So I love to marry in the science, the neuroscience, also with the psychology and with meditation. I was a meditation teacher. And so I love speaking about that piece, the philosophy, and bringing in the art and the science, because they're often saying the same things just in two different ways, which is really fascinating. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here and talk more about it with you today.
I'm excited about it because one of the things you said is uncertainty and definitely added to the list of things that a lot of us are working with. And some people say getting over. I'm not a big on the over, but I feel like we're working with. It's now, there's always uncertainty, but I think in life as humans, we have this, I call it false sense of security. But recent current events definitely heat obvious, glaring, giant size uncertainty. As we even hopped on this call this morning, I woke up to some information and I haven't dug into it because I take my time. My OS, my operating system can only take so much at one time. So I reduce how I take in information. So saw the buzz. Someone asked me, "Did you hear there's a war?" I don't usually go off of hearsay. I'm going to go do my fact finding and my research and try to avoid going down a rabbit hole because that only gets my system overloaded. So let's dive in. Let's start right here where most leaders think they need more strategy, better delegation, stronger KPIs, even boundaries. You're saying we need a better and a new or upgraded operating system. Can you break down for us what Calm Clarity OS really is?
Yeah, so it's a excuse me, it's an innate mindset, an innate state of mind that we already have within us.
Mhm.
So as leaders, of course, we do all the prep work up front. We do the work that you mentioned with the KPIs and the workforce and the strategy and have that in place. And once that prep work is in place, excuse me, what often happens is just going to take a little sip here.
Mm,
What often happens then is the mind kicks into a higher gear and we start analyzing the decisions we've made,
mhm,
wondering if we set the right KPIs, wondering if we should have done something different. It's all that mental noise gets louder as we start to spend a lot of time analyzing, weighing pros and cons, and that type of thing. So, where Calm Clarity OS comes in is starting to notice what you're thinking, what parts of your thinking is actually mental noise,
mhm,
and what parts of your thinking is clarity.
hmm,
And so, a lot of the mental noise piece is habitual. And it comes in after the fact. And a lot of those of us who are high achievers, by the way, I'm client 0 for myself.
I was gonna ask you about that too.
I'm a super driven high achiever, put your head down, grind it out, grit type person. And as a result, I've had run-ins with stress. I've had
Mhm.
run-ins with burnout. At one point, I developed a skin condition from head to toe of tiny red sores that looked like little psoriasis pieces. My whole body, doctors at the time didn't know what it was. But once I lowered my stress levels, they all went away. Even the dermatologist had no idea.
They couldn't find a diagnosis for it.
Right. Yeah. But so that was the first time I meditated, actually. That was the only thing that helped me at that time. That was 20 years ago, was
Mhm,
learning how to meditate and how to access that space inside that calm center. I found that calm center for the first time through meditation. And I realized we all have this space inside of us that's always quiet, content, and peaceful, no matter what. It's accessed in meditation, although we don't need meditation to access it. It's who we really are, and
yeah,
all that we innocently do is we think ourselves away from it. So, yeah, so that's just to say that I am one of those high achiever people and I've tested all these things on
and
myself. And then when
yourself.
I find, yeah, the ones that work the best, that's when I add it to my framework and that's what I use to help people. So, to go back to your question, why we need less strategy is once the work is done. So, once we've put the strategy into place, we've done the planning, then we need to recognize when there's the extra thinking, the mental clutter that comes up and starts to question, like the self doubt,
Mm,
questioning if we did things the right way, wondering if we missed something, the inner critic that likes to tell us, we did it wrong or who do we think we are or all those. And we all have that, by the way. Every person has that. And when I speak to clients and they get surprised when I say, everyone experiences those negative voices sometimes. It's
mhm,
okay. It's normal. It's part of life, unfortunately. We all have different variations of it. And as I mentioned, I work with CEOs as well. And so, yes, those people who are at the top and very smart, very intellectual people, they also have that. It's all walks of life. We all have it. So we want to start to notice when those voices are getting loud, whether it be self doubt, imposter syndrome, the inner critic, the analyzing, wondering if we did things correctly. That's the mental clutter that we really don't want to give our attention to. Because the funny thing about thoughts is when we don't give them our attention, they tend to just go back to wherever they came from.
Mm,
But the opposite is true. So we feed thoughts with our attention.
yes.
So if we're having a lot of thinking, self doubt, wondering if we made the right decision at work or at home, and then we just sit with it and we kind of stew with it and we ruminate on it, that attention is keeping that in place. It's like a hose that's coming through and we're kinking that hose and we're just holding it. But where our calm clarity resides is when we notice those habitual thoughts and we let them go because they just want to come in and out. That's the nature of thinking.
Uh-huh.
And then we come back to the space of the deeper mind, of
Mm,
calm clarity, of who we really are, of our gut instincts, even
right.
that are telling us where we need to go.
I love it. I love it. I love that you call. Just a few days ago, I was talking with a guest and I was telling him that I call. I think we're talking about the same when you said the clearer mind. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, all kinds of different words. Yeah.
Right. We call it, yeah. And yeah, deeper mind. I call it my wise sage self only because I
Oh, great.
remember when I think it was Michael Singer or Gary Gukov, if I'm saying his name
Hmm.
correctly, The Seat of the Soul. He talked about Gary Group talked about, the listener and the observer. So there's, all this chatter in our head, this thinking thing. We're always thinking. I was telling like 8th graders the other day, I'm like, yeah, you're thinking in your sleep. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what dreams are because your thoughts are coming alive and then creating like a movie theater with a projector screen. And so for me, I said, there's the observer, I call him the wise sage. And when we get into the space of calm and we're just, letting that one lead our decision making process, I call that my wise sage self. It's still me, but it's that part of me that just listens and is more perceptive and rational and is not biased on optimism or pessimism. It's just, what are the facts? What do we know for sure? And making those decisions by listening out. And I feel like that's kind of what you described when you talk about it. So let's ask you this. What's happening, just so we can understand a little bit? I love mind science, of course. What's happening neurologically when leaders operate under chronic pressure?
Yeah. So typically that looks like having increased levels of cortisol, which are the stress hormone.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start to have elevated levels of the stress hormone, then we start to have less clarity. We start to feel even smaller decisions feel difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's also early signs of burnout where we start to have less joy in our work, right?
Yes.
Feels harder to wake up in the morning. And then we also get this sense of tunnel vision of, oh, well, if I just, I'm working on all these things at work. And if I just get these things done, then I can relax, then I can slow down. But as we get into that tunnel vision mode, so many things start to fall away, like our relationships start to suffer, our
Our
health,
health.
sleep, right? All those things. And people around us may notice, but we have such intense tunnel vision that we're not even aware usually in that state. When people are approaching burnout, they're not even usually aware. And that's why it's great for those around you to say something and give them a tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I don't think you're doing too well right now.
Mm-hmm.
It can just be this snowball effect where it just gets worse until someone really needs to take some time off to get well.
Exactly. To get well. I agree. Definitely. And a lot of people I've been a lot of people are like, well, I'm ADHD. I can't get diagnosed, especially high achievers, adults. And I'm like, in my
Mhm.
mind, I'm thinking there's this new thing on the chart for neurodiverse individuals, and that's becoming neurodiverse because of environment, not only because of trauma, because some people are born neurodiverse, is what they're saying. And some of us are becoming neurodiverse because of trauma or just being environmental. So I believe when they started, showing that, I'm like, stress will make
Mhm.
you now demonstrate signs of ADHD, possibly ADD. So a lot of adults, high achieving adults, are saying, my ADHD brain. not diagnosed, but they're saying that. And it's because they're showing all these signs and symptoms, no less than what you described so perfectly, Tracy, where you said, I had these red bumps all over my body that looked like psoriasis. Some people could think is eczema. Some people could think it's, all kinds of things. It looks like something else, but they could not prove it was anything that they know. And then you find as you calm yourself down and made a lifestyle that was around centering yourself and your thoughts, I don't see any spots on you right now. And I have my own stories on and on about different things that I've been diagnosed with. Even to Hashimoto's disease, which that my blood work shows it, but the way I live, many people will never believe that I am actually living with Hashimoto's disease. And a lot of people don't really know when I'm in a flare up, not because I'm masking, but because I learned how to literally calm myself and actually create a lifestyle that supports calm, even in high stress situations. Because my life is nothing but I go at a very fast pace. Even though I don't have the biggest high demand, always say, I don't have children. I don't have a spouse that I have to, show up at a certain. So I get to really focus in and do whatever it is I want to focus on. So tell us, Tracy, so we can just hit on this a little bit in the what. How does, and this is big, I love hearing about this, and you've done this, how does poor sleep compound decision fatigue?
Yeah, great question. And I'd love to answer that. And I do want to add to what you were saying previously, as well as I've spoken to so many people that think they have adult onset ADHD. It's so common, especially in the high achieving realm, and also helps people work at a really fast pace. But, and interesting what you're saying about environments
Yes.
starting to be environment caused. Fascinating, but sleep conversation. So, yes, so of course, everyone knows sleep is important. Of course, we hear about it in the news all the time and health news. And
Thank
what I
goodness
find
we
with,
do, yeah.
yeah, but the people I connect with, if they're not having a great sleep on a regular basis, then they also feel bad about it. They feel guilty. They feel like something's wrong.
Mhm.
And that tends to compound it and make it worse
Makes the
for them
stress
because
more.
of the stress about not getting a good sleep. Then they get more of a poor sleep. It compounds it. So
Yeah,
it's great it's in the news because it's so important, but I it almost adds more stress to people.
because 'cause they're not actually giving solutions. They're highlighting all the issues that come with not getting sleep.
Right. They're saying you might get Alzheimer's kind of thing, and people get scared. I know. So here's the thing. I love bringing in the neuroscience of sleep cycles because this changed my life. Before my life got really busy, I used to always try and go for 8 hours of sleep. But what I found is I was still waking up really tired after 8 hours, which was strange. So I had all these tests done. I was trying to figure it out. Couldn't find
The
out,
more sleep I get,
why.
the more tired I am.
Yeah. And then what I learned is that sleep cycles are 90-minute increments.
Yes.
Right? And so in those 90 minutes, we drop into a light sleep, go to a deep sleep, the REM dream sleep, and come back up to a light sleep. So really, we want to plan our sleep around 90-minute increments, which would mean that a full night's sleep, so you're waking up at the end of a sleep cycle, would be 6 hours or 7.5 hours or 9 hours. And so once I
Mm,
started planning my sleep around that, like I love 7.5. I wake up so rested. I feel so great after 7.5, but even 6 hours as well. I feel great after that.
right.
And so, yeah.
That's the secret. I don't have that information. That's new info to me. And now it's making sense because I would get these 8 hours and a half, and I'm like, I feel like I need more. But I would get like these 5.5, 6.5 hours. I'm like, I'm good. I'm up. I go to bed at 8 and I'm up at like 4 in the morning and I have super energy. If I'm up at 6 because I went to bed at like 10, not as great. Okay, so now that makes sense. Now I'm gonna dig deeper. Tell us.
Right.
I'm blown by that. That's big info. That's stuff they don't talk about on the news.
I know, I know. And so if you wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle, it's that feeling of being really groggy. You're in a middle of a dream. Maybe your alarm clock goes off and you're trying to fight yourself awake kind of thing. And you just wake up
Hmm.
feeling like you need more sleep, like you said. And we also need to finish those sleep cycles throughout the night so that we can go into those deep REM states. And that's when our brains do cleanup. They clean up toxins and things from the day. It's like
Ah,
a little hygiene practice that happens
like
so
sweepers
that the
coming
next
out
day
on
we
the
have
highway.
clarity.
Like sweepers
Yeah,
come or like the
right.
defragmenting in your on your computer, right?
Same.
Wow.
That's right. Like the defragment. Right. So if we're not getting enough sleep and we're not getting into those deep sleep portions of the sleep cycles, then we're not having that clutter cleaned up in our brain. And then the next day, that leads to less clarity, difficulty making decisions, to answer your question. But what's so helpful for everyone watching is to start to plan your sleep
Uh,
and have it be a regular sleep schedule that you try and commit to. Of course, we have weekends, we have vacations, we travel, and we get thrown off, and that's okay. But
mhm.
for the most part, having a regular bedtime, a regular wake up time, that's 6 hours or 7.5. For myself, I feel more rested getting up after 6 hours than I do after eight, just because it's the end of that sleep cycle. So I encourage everyone listening to give this a try because it's a pretty big game changer.
So let me ask you this because one of the things I learned some years ago, because I had to take several sleep studies, I had a lot going on in my sleep. It wasn't only about how much I was sleeping, it was the quality. And that's when that whole conversation about REM sleep came up. And that's when I started learning. And I did do some, study about sleep. I'm pretty sure that's so many years ago. I'm pretty sure there's so much more data now about sleeping. So let's see if you have this answer. Talk to us about the quality because someone might consciously know, "Oh, I'm getting those 6 that Tracy talked about. I'm getting 8.5 or whatever." But they're still really tired. Of course, there's all these other things because 'cause we're not here diagnosing anybody, so don't be fooled. We're just putting scenarios out here, and I think a lot of this can be education that you get to empower yourself and talk to your doctor about if you're going to investigate to help yourself and really hone in on cleaning that up for yourself. But I wanted to see if you know and you can comment and share the quality because you did mention around the 90-minute cycles. How do you know outside of a sleep study that you're getting that quality even in the time frames that you suggested?
Yeah, so there's two different ways that come to mind. The first, of course, I've got a smartwatch, and that's kind of the cheat way, but it tells me my sleep quality and it
Yeah.
tells me how deep of sleep I'm getting. The other piece that I want to add, though, is the mindset piece. This is where we can look at the importance of mindset and how it can benefit sleep.
Mm,
And as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, our thinking mind doesn't sleep. The subconscious mind, it keeps running throughout the night. And
mhm.
if we have a lot going on in our brains or we have a lot going on in our life, you'll notice when you get up in the middle of the night between sleep cycles. So that's what happens. We go between sleep cycles. So we finish one, we're in a light sleep, and then we want to drop into another sleep cycle, and that's usually between 1 and 3 in the morning. And so
Mm,
what happens between those cycles is we rouse slightly, that's normal. We want to change positions usually so that we don't get bed sores, right? Our body wants to move around a bit.
mhm,
That's totally normal. And when that happens, if we have a lot going around our brain, a lot spinning around up there, it can really wake us up in the middle of the night, right? That's what tends to happen if we have a
mhm,
lot of thinking happening. And if we notice the thinking, we start thinking about the thinking, we go, oh, yeah, we engage with it. We were saying
mhm,
earlier that once we give thoughts our attention, it feeds them. So we start thinking about them.
mhm,
That wakes up our brain, right? That increases activity in the brain. We go up through the brainwave states. So we go from the sleep state to the meditation state to the creative thinking state up to high beta. And before you know it, we're wide awake. It's 2 in the morning and you might as well turn the lights on.
mhm.
And I've talked to people who get up and make chili at 2 in the morning. I've talked to people who do wild things in the middle of the night because they can't go back to sleep.
I am one of
But
those
if
people. I get up. I find myself up at 2, but I have seasons when that's happening, and I would be trying to go back to sleep for like an hour, hour and a half, and now I decided not to waste an hour and a half, so I get up. And I'm up, and I don't go back to sleep till the next night, and it's not good because then it catches up with me, but I don't wanna waste an hour and a half, 2 hours just tossing. So once that first half hour goes by and I'm not I put I just get up and start doing stuff.
it's so common when I bring this up to people, it's so common. And I do it too sometimes. But what's so great is we, in that time with mindset work, with knowing how the brain really works, we can put ourselves back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the goal, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, we want to have those sleep cycles so that we wake up feeling refreshed, we
I'm
have
pretty
clarity, and
sure, yeah.
everything just feels easier when we have a good sleep.
Yes.
Otherwise, we deteriorate so quickly. So, in the middle of the night, if that's you, you're up between 1 and 3 in the morning, you're rousing slightly, and then you notice there's some thinking going on in your brain. What you want to do is not give that thinking your attention.
Hmm.
And by doing that, what I find works really great is to turn the focus back on your body.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's taking deep breaths, that's visualizing yourself floating. If you're a meditator and you can let those thoughts go, that's great. Do that. Just something to not engage with the thinking mind because that's what's going to wake you up. And so coming back to the body, letting yourself relax, even thinking about how sometimes for me it's like, oh, my bed's so comfortable. You just kind of sink back into it. Whatever you can do to not wake yourself up, not engage with those thoughts. And it's coming back to that space of the OS, the calm clarity, because when we're not thinking
Right.
about our thoughts, we're not picking them up. It's like a boomerang. We come
Yeah.
back because it's our natural state and then we fall back to sleep.
Right. So would you say that calm clarity OS is essentially a reset of the leader's internal mindset architecture? Sort of. Like
And sort of, it's more what you were saying earlier about the wise sage self. I
it's
love that.
connecting to the sage and putting the sage in operation. Because I feel we
Yes,
all have that aspect of us. Every last human has it, I believe. That's my belief. But we
me
override
too.
it. We override. We override. We override. So on the talking to high achievers and leaders again, what's coming up for me and thinking is a lot of us deal with overthinking, a lot of reactivity, and I always have to say a lot of identity challenges, right? So let's talk about something that's uncomfortable. High achievers often wear that stress. Like it's like our badge of honor. Like, yeah, you know how it goes. Life of an entrepreneur. Yeah. You know how we are. So why do leaders equate intensity to effectiveness? What is that thing that we do?
Yes, and me too, of course. I'm an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. I kind of relate to that. Yeah, and it used to, everyone these days, you say, "How are you?" "Oh, busy." Kind of the used to be good, and now it's busy, I
Busy,
think.
yeah. Busy as usual, the grind.
So I think what is so helpful for that, for those of us who are high achievers, is to notice, well, wait, what are we running towards? What are we grinding towards?
Yeah.
And in the early days, I had one of my mentors ask me, well, Tracy, when you achieve these big goals you have for yourself, how do you expect to feel?
Mm.
I said, well, I guess I would feel content. I would feel peaceful, even, and I would feel like I could finally relax after grinding.
The illusion of thinking to yourself. I say that to myself, but it's quite an illusion. It's made up.
Well, the funny thing is about those goals that we're grinding towards, you probably notice, I notice, the goalpost keeps moving,
Let me
right?
jump up and down on my desk. That's exactly why I was laughing. I'm like, yeah, we never get there because we keep moving the goalposts.
Never
We
get
do it
there.
ourselves.
Yes, do it to ourselves. We might get there and have a little 5-minute celebration, but then we're on to the next thing.
Huh. What's next?
It's great to be driven. It's great to set big, lofty goals. And it's possible to access the space of contentment, peace of mind, and rest in the present moment
Hmm.
while still going forward and achieving goals. And so that's been a wonderful realization for myself that I love now helping others with,
Mm-hmm.
is that I can sit in that space myself and then work on my business
Yeah.
and then write my book and then do all these wonderful things, knowing that I don't need to achieve to find it because it takes a lot of the pressure off if I already have that now.
Yes. Yes. So beautiful. I am right there with you on that. And so what I've learned is because too, being a high achiever, and I'm involved with so many different people across all parts of the world, whatever, for different things, podcasts, the nonprofit, the this, the that, and you name it. they don't really know because I show up so well in the element with them that they think the only thing I do is whatever I'm doing with them because I do so well. And so the requirements are always like, what's next? Let's go. Where are you at? Okay, Dr. Alisa, are we? When are we? Are we going to? It would be great if we would. I would love to. I have an idea. And they think, I'm only here for this. And I'm like, I don't think so. You're not about to put this on my plate. Now, before, because I get excited, I want to get involved. But now I'm like, what is that going to do to my peace? Do I get to go to the pool if I do this other activity? Do I really need to be doing this activity? It'll be great. It'll be a wonderful thing. It'll be impactful, but that doesn't really help me. That takes my energy down. It takes my focus. And so I'm like, I'm not mad at anybody for putting other stuff out there, but I feel like a lot of people will get frustrated with you when you begin to understand what you just said and not understand it, but practice. Like, you don't know this word, but we use it a lot. One of my math teachers brought this word, and he's like, I'm a math teacher, not an English teacher. He said the understandment of it. The understandment of what Tracey just said is the only way you can prove that you understand it is by doing it. That's why we put meant at the end, because you're actually doing it. So that's where I am. I've been rolling out that red carpet in my life because I realize that one of the things I have now in my life is that if I were supposed to close my eyes and didn't wake up tomorrow, God forbid, I'm not saying that I would have lived, right? And that's my goal, to say I would have lived. And it's not only would have lived, meaning the impact I made, because obviously that's so important to all of us humans. And it's definitely not about all the money I would have made. It's had I taken advantage of the opportunity to breathe on this planet, that means, do I have memories? If I had the opportunity to reflect before I pass, do I have memories? Do I have time? Or did I just have frustrations and what's next? What's next? What's next? And feeling like I'm never getting there. I remember feeling that way, Tracey, and that I did not want that to be my life. I mean, a lot of times we think about legacy and we think about what we leave behind for others to benefit from. But I believe true legacy starts with how you view your own self and your own life. And so you take ownership and responsibility for that. No one's going to do it for you, right? What are your thoughts on that, Tracey?
Yeah, I love that. You're bringing up a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings in me speaking about that. And I agree. It's legacy isn't just you get to the end of your life, whenever that is, say 80 years old, 90 years old, I don't know. And then you look back and go, wow, and those of us, we might not all make it to that time. Life happens.
Yeah.
And so, how can we live now? How can we make the most of it? How can we enjoy the ride rather than waiting to get to some imaginary day in the future when we can finally rest and relax and enjoy what we've worked so hard on? It's about enjoying it now. And I've worked with executives who have grinded to get to the verge of retirement. And then they get there and their families are gone, they're sick, they don't know their kids, the kids have gone to college, they're crying with me on the call. Like, it's just
Hmm.
it's a lot, and it's really common. You put your head down, and before you know it, it whisks by,
Yes. I
and you put your head down to grind.
I started reading a book and I'm really bad because I get these books and the titles are the last thing that I really focus on. And he was sharing about his journey being one where he was just building up all the stuff. And then he went through divorce. His child was distant and his child was pretty young. Then he ended up losing his home. And then, you know, was asked, when is it going to be enough? And it's never going to be enough. It's never
Mhm.
going to be enough. Like you said, we ourselves keep moving the goalposts. And I feel like society does that because remember, like someone was just doing a reflection on social media and I was laughing. She talked about it being like about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, it was $22 to get a full set of acrylic nails. And now it's like $120. What happened? Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So if you're someone who always got your nails done, you have the goalposts. Your budget has expanded 6 times what it usually was. And that's just an example. I'm using a very little example. So the cost on your freedom, the cost on your peace, the cost on everything to achieve your goals that might not include going to a nail shop or not has probably multiplied by 6. It's probably 10x. So when you think about that, if you're putting off peace, if you're putting off calm and clarity and wholeness within yourself to get to a certain point, here's your guarantee. You're never going to get there. That's my point.
That's right.
We're never going to get there. This is why what you have created is so important. So tell us a little bit more about why you think overthinking itself is actually a trauma response. Because we did introduce neurodiversity into the conversation. Tell us why you think overthinking is a trauma response.
When you said never enough, so when I started really doing this work on myself,
Mm-hmm.
I uncovered, and I didn't even know it was there, that I had this underlying thought of never enough.
Mm.
And it was
Identity.
so unaware of it. It was like, a low generator hum, something that's just in the background, but you don't even know it. And it just seemed to me life was busy, life was hard, life was fast paced, and I was just responding to it. But as I did this work on myself, you're almost excavating through your beliefs, your thoughts. And I found that never enough. And it was a thought that I was holding up, carrying with me forward, defining who I was and what I was doing. And when I saw that it was just a thought, just a belief, just something that was it was a mindset that I was looking out through life, right? Never enough, never enough, never enough. Then
Mm-hmm.
just grinding, grinding, grinding. When I saw that it was something I had created innocently
Mm-hmm.
with good intentions,
Yes, obviously. And
I
I'd let
chose
I
to,
hope people listening catch that too, that it's never bad intention.
yeah, we're all just doing our best,
Mm-hmm.
really. And I love sharing, even though sometimes I get a little embarrassed to share these things. I do it so that it helps other people, hopefully. So when I found that never enough piece, and I just realized, I don't have to always listen to that.
Mm.
It's another thought. It's another belief system.
Ooh.
And it still pops up now because it's just how I'm hardwired. And that's the thing about Calm Clarity OS or mindset, whatever we want to call it. It doesn't mean that those beliefs, those thoughts go away, but we get better at noticing them when they pop up.
Yes.
So there's my never enough grinding thought. There's my habit. It's my habit. And
Mm.
I'm not going to listen to it today. I'm going to come back to my space of peace of mind, calm clarity, and keep going forward. Not from not being fueled by never enough, because that doesn't feel as nice.
Right. Right. Because when we go to the
Yeah.
gas station, we've got those 3 choices, right? I don't know if you guys have it in Canada. We have
Hmm.
87, I
Yeah.
think 89, and I don't know if it's 92 or 90. And you get to push a button. Your credit card in, you get to push a button and choose which one you want to get. And so I feel the same way about thoughts. We don't get to choose the thoughts that pop into our mind, but we get to choose the ones that stay. We get to choose the ones we take action on. So when I go into depth into my think, speak, do framework, a lot of times there's so many questions for people. It's like, where do thoughts come from? Why do I get them when I don't want them? People ask these questions and I'm like, you don't get to control. No different than if there's an incinerator, on 45th and Bethany Road, they have a they're burning garbage there. When you get there, that air is polluted. You cannot change the quality of air. But what you get to choose is whether or not you drive through. And if you're going to drive through, are you going to wear protective gear? Are you going to wind your windows up? Are you going to turn on inside air in your vehicle? You have that control. You don't get to control what that air is like because the municipality has already let them put that there. Right? So you don't get to choose what thoughts come. You get to choose how they stay, whether they do stay or not, and would you get to live and act on them. Right? So how
Yes.
does reactivity subtly creates damage, like that damage culture that you talked about? I'm not good enough.
Reactivity. So are we talking reactivity as in
When it
to
comes
other people?
when it comes to that, just like we're constantly,
Mm.
how we have that time where we are actually just like da da da. Yeah, she earned it. What is the world they're using now? Like, by right, it's only right that I tell you, I don't play. People make up these, like in our culture, we just say, like, that's what you had it coming, sort of. I get to blurt out what I want to say. I get to do Or maybe on the flip side is, he's my boss, so I have to take it. It's a whole lot of reactivity to what's happening, and we're not driving that internal locus of control in our thoughts, which eventually we're giving ourselves away in action and how we react and deal. It's more reaction. It's not like anything. So I feel like it's like a damaged culture. Like we end up now being a victim to whatever our lives have become. So I wanted to see what your thought
Yeah.
was. And maybe you can add there how calm authority would help us, what it would look like in action if we're really taking steps to not be just a responder to our lives, but actually we're living and taking control of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So I love the metaphor of a ladder. So there's
Mm,
different rungs on a ladder. And so we've got the bottom rungs, and that's the lower level feelings and thinkings. As you mentioned, never enough. Or for some people, it's I can never catch a break, or I
mm,
always, it's hard. Life is hard,
yeah.
or the world's against me, or,
I was just
all,
born with
whatever our
bad
deep, dark
luck.
thoughts are. Right. All those terrible, sad thoughts we wish we didn't have.
Yeah,
That's the bottom
because I
rung
have
of
them
the ladder.
sometimes too still. Even it's something that comes and I have to work on it. Yeah.
Right. We all do. And so that bottom rung of the ladder, not only is it not doesn't feel nice to be there, but if you can imagine our vantage point, we're looking at the weeds, we're looking at the bramble bushes.
Yeah.
And so we have a different vantage point of the world of our life that we're looking out at. And we're receiving thoughts as well that match that, right? So it's kind of like a bridge. Then we're hearing more thinking that confirms that lower level, lower quality type thinking. If we go up the ladder, which could be a mindset, could be consciousness, there's lots of different words we could
Same
use to
thing.
describe that ladder. But if we go up the rungs and then we go to a higher frame of mind, a higher mindset, we're up higher and we have a different vantage point. We have a different view. We
Mhm.
see vistas, we see possibilities, we see new ideas. We have space to think, space to have creative thoughts come in. And so it's also a bridge to a different quality of thinking where we're looking at the same life, but we see a different life and we see different opportunities
Mhm.
than if we're just looking down through the weeds.
Mhm.
And so to answer your question about reactivity, if we're focused down on the bottom rung
Mhm.
about everything being terrible or I can't get a break or my boss sucks or whatever it is, and we're hanging out down there, and then a boss says something or someone, randomly says something to us in a store, we react from that space. We
Mhm.
just we keep ourselves on that lower rung.
Mhm.
But if we insert that pause, right? If we note like that pause is so key. So someone says something that triggers us, and rather than reacting immediately, we pause, we take a breath, we notice, well, wait, am I on the lower rung right now?
Mhm.
If I take a couple deep breaths, I can bring myself up, I can clear my thoughts, and I can react from a higher state of mind. And then I don't need to get stuck in that victim space where that
Yes.
even just, and it's funny because when you're down there, because I've been there too, we're not intentionally acting like a victim. It seems like life is happening to us and we're responding to life.
Yes.
But what I would love for everyone to take home is to just realize that we get a choice.
Mm.
Like we always get a choice in how we show up, we get a choice in how we respond, and we can choose to bring ourselves up that ladder. Perfect. Because a lot of
Yes.
people, I think, assume I need to have my life figured out. I need to have my job, my bank account, my relationship, all these things figured out so that I can, I don't know, be at that higher rung or just feel better.
Yeah.
But you don't need the perfect life to do all those things. We just need to choose how we show up.
Yes. I agree. And you will never, ever have the perfect life if inside
Mm.
you are running on fuel that says, I've got to get here. I've got to get somewhere else. This is why I love talking about presence because there's so much abundance in that moment. If you stay in the present, you literally, that's where the regulation and the processing and the choice to go up that ladder. I just love that analogy. But one thing I've learned, Tracy, is that leaders don't burn out because they're incapable. We burn out because we never learn how to regulate internally. So, would you agree that resilience is less about endurance and more about clarity?
Yes, 100%.
And you're saying
Yes.
that through Calm Clarity OS, you're helping your clients walk through a set of processes that become new ways of thinking, being, and even doing that is always taking them up the ladder.
You can replenish yourself. right? Even though you have a million things going on, you don't have to go into burnout. It's not about being incapable. It's about learning how to reset yourself, recharge yourself,
Yes.
refuel yourself, and continue doing the things that you love to do.
Yes. Can you talk to us about what clarity looks like versus control? Because a lot of us
Oh,
let me tell you, I've been caught. When that made sense to me, I was like, "Ooh, there's a difference." Because I feel like, "Oh yeah, so this and this and this and this one's not going to tell me that. I got my boundaries, check, check, check." But I was practicing more control because I still had the fear of failing, maybe the way I did before, but I still was not clear. So clarity versus control, according to Tracy. Let us hear it.
well, our brains want control,
Mhm.
right? We feel safe when we're in control.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And so our brains want a guaranteed outcome.
Mhm.
Our brains want to know exactly where we're going, how we're going to get there, when we're going to get there. We've got these goals, we want them achieved, all the parts and places to get us there. But the thing about clarity is it doesn't work that way.
Mm,
Clarity is one step at a time.
yeah.
And it's actually how we are designed and engineered to respond and to navigate through life. One of my mentors has a metaphor of a sailboat, which I love, and sailboat versus a motorboat. So he says a lot of us, especially the overachiever types, are motorboat mentality,
Mm,
right? So we have a destination where we want to go and we just crank the motor and we just get ourselves there. We go through the waves, we go through the weather, it doesn't matter. Maybe we'll break the boat along the way on some rocks, but we're just going to motorboat our way there. But there's also another way available, and that's the sailboat. This is from Dr. George Pransky, by the way.
uh-huh.
There's the idea of a sailboat, and the sailboat still is getting to the same destination, but it partway through the way it stops. You check the wind, you check the tide cycle, you check in, you have all these data points you check in with. You might alter your course a little bit according to the wind. It might take a little bit longer to get there, but you arrive at the
Mhm.
same destination and it's just a different experience. And it's not saying one is better than the other, it's just saying that we have two options available in how we want to get to our goals. And so clarity is that same idea as the sailboat where we're taking it piece by piece and we
Mm,
don't always know. Like we might have this big, hairy, audacious goal that we're working towards, but we don't have maybe all the steps of how we're going to get there yet.
right.
And that's okay. And so it's starting to learn how to navigate that space of uncertainty, of unknown, of having unknown variables as we get ourselves there and feeling okay and comfortable going through that space. I was just in Nashville last week speaking to a healthcare tech startup about this exactly because they're scaling. They've got these huge goals and they want to know how to move through uncertainty, not having all the pieces yet, but not
Yeah.
being stressed out and overwhelmed
Yeah.
by not having the control yet. So it's about one step at a time, checking in with your inner wise sage self, your calm clarity OS,
Mhm.
one step at a time, and knowing that it's okay to not have all the pieces figured out before you get there.
Mm,
And it's also great to bring this to the macro scale, everything happening in the world. Yes, there's so many unknowns out there. Yes, that can feel scary, but one piece at a time, we have that inner wise sage self. We can tune into at any time if we need that next action step, that next
yes.
breadcrumb that gets dropped for us of what we need
Yes.
to do. And then feeling okay that we don't know all the other steps yet. That's okay. But our brain wants to know.
Yeah, that's the
So it
control.
gets loud and noisy.
Yeah.
So we pass that through. Yeah, I probably could talk about calm versus control all day. It's a huge topic,
I'm
but
pretty
great
sure.
question.
Yes. And it's like, I think one of the biggest things, if we can just keep that image you gave us there, was the breadcrumb and we just see one. I mean, some days the visibility is pretty low when we wake up and we have to drive to work or get on the road to whatever it is we do. We don't fight it. We know we gotta go. And so we're like, okay, we're getting in the car anyway. Or we don't even check. Really, really, we don't check. A lot of us don't check what the visibility is. When I lived in the state of Florida, I should because it could be anything, especially in the summertime. You have cooler mornings sometimes, and then it's just all foggy and dense. But you get in the car and you're like, damn, I can't see. But you put on the windscreen wiper. And I don't know why I did that because I used to do that. I'm like, that doesn't even help. Silly. You just have to drive. What you have to do is slow down because you can't see more than maybe even one car ahead of you. But you don't stop driving. And if you want, you can be anxious the whole time, or you can not drive and say, you know what, I'm pulling over. I'll wait here till 10 in the morning when it clears up. Or you can be like, this is what it is. I'm going to put on my audiobook or listen to the radio, and I'm just going to drive and take my time, make sure I have my low beams on, and I'm going. And those are the three choices I have in that situation. Not go at all. Be anxious the whole way through. Put on some music or whatever my favorite thing is to and chill out, put my low beans on and keep my eyes on the road and just drive slowly. And I feel like if you're going to make it in life, it's going to be the middle one. You're going to have to choose that one, but you get to choose. The thing is, I tell people, we always have a choice. I do not. This is the life that was given me. Yes, but the choices and how you respond is yours. That's the power you have. I never tell anyone, "Oh yeah, but what did you do that caused that to happen?" Sometimes 89% of the times you did absolutely nothing. It's just lifing. We don't our politicians choose a war and whatever, sometimes even the presidents and stuff don't even get to choose. When you sit and you watch behind the scenes, you're like, what do you mean they don't have a choice? That's what they're president for. No, they don't, because they have these systems around them that gets help make that choice. But ultimately, you can only make the choice based on what's given and the information you have. This is why we have this podcast. So what I'm going to do next, and I don't like that this conversation is winding down already. Flip the script, Tracey. This is where on the show, I ask you to give us back a moment in your own life, but you shared so much already, where you had to shift internally before you could elevate yourself externally. What was the mindset shift? What is the success? How did it go? And what was the outcome?
Yeah, thanks. It relates to what we were speaking about earlier about legacy and
Mm,
about looking back on our life. So, a huge turning point for me was 11 years ago. My dad passed away from a terminal illness.
mm,
Prior to that, I was working in corporate healthcare for 10 years and I always planned to stay there. Then he got really sick with a terminal illness that had no treatment, no hope. So, for 2 years, I just watched him pass away slowly in front of me. It was really hard. We were very
yeah.
close.
Yeah.
And just as I was about he had a few days left to live, basically, is what we'd been told.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a nervous wreck because I'd been just so upset and stressed and fighting it internally.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I had this inner fight against something I had no control over, but I was so mad and anxious that it was happening. And so I felt as if I was about to have a nervous breakdown, basically.
Yeah.
And I could feel I was at this fork in the road. I could do that,
Mm-hmm.
have a nervous breakdown, end up in the hospital just before he passes away. That would not be great. The other option was just to surrender
Mm-hmm.
and to raise that white flag of, I can't control, this is out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to put it down. And so I chose the latter. I thought I would be overwhelmed with a tidal wave of negative emotion and heaviness that I wouldn't be able to handle. But the opposite happened. I
Wow.
was overcome with lightness.
Wow.
And the lightness is that space that we've been speaking about. It's that calm center, it's the inner wise sage, it's the
Mm.
calm clarity OS, it's all these different words,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful words of presence.
Mm.
And when I put down all the thinking, the anxious thinking, and I put down the fight, that's what emerged because that's what's always there waiting for us.
Yeah.
And that was my turning point, and that's when I had the courage to start my dream business as well, because suddenly I was looking at my life as a legacy thinking, well, he's no longer here. My dad, I'm still here, and I could see my life as this gift.
Yeah.
What do I really want to do with the rest of my life if it's a gift? And I wanted to take a crack at creating my dream business, helping more people access this space.
Yeah.
So that was 11 years ago. That was one of those things you don't choose to happen, but really beautiful things happen as a result.
Yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. That's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that with us. How do you define success for yourself now?
Success is living from the space of my well being, my contentment, and my peace, and having these big, lofty goals, still doing that, but
Yes,
from that state.
from that space. That's deep. Ooh, that's so deep. I love that. Huh. I connect with that. Connect with that. Oh my goodness.
Cool.
So mindset bites to go, Tracy. This is where I step away from the microphone and the camera, and it's just you and our listeners and viewers. What's one thing every high level leader needs to remember about their mind? Here we go.
It would be that you always get to choose your mindset. No matter how hard life gets at work or at home, you can always access that space inside that is always calm, clear, content, and peaceful. And it's always there available to you. And it's when you put down your thinking, as I was saying I did with my situation with my dad passing away. You can do that too. It's by putting down your thinking and seeing what emerges from the space of presence in the present moment of who you really are. And it's a beautiful space that I hope everybody gives some time, even just a couple minutes a day, to spending some more time there. So thanks so much for watching.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Tracy, for that. So, Tracy, if you would love to share with us, who is it that you work with and how our listeners and viewers can connect with you and your work and experience Calm Clarity OS for themselves?
Yeah, so I love working with leaders. Primarily, I work with founders, CEOs, and executives, and I help them with this. I work with them one-on-one as well as teams, and I also do presentations as well. I come out and do in-person workshops, and I speak as well. So that's who I love to connect with. Thanks so much for watching. But I also work with all types of people as well, anyone who would like to connect. So connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where you can find me. And I also have a free newsletter there called The Focus Mind that everyone's welcome to subscribe to.
Absolutely. So we'll have all of Tracy's information in the bio and a direct link to her newsletter. Newsletters on LinkedIn are some of the fastest growing ways for thought leaders like Tracy and myself to get information on our work and how you can heal and grow and expand yourself and then actually build your legacy to helping others the same way. And so Tracy's isn't going to be in the description. I'm certainly going to be subscribed. As you all know, her work is absolutely a big part of my own personal journey. That's the key. Again, your mindset is the key to your success. And so Calm Clarity OS is one of those tools that I believe all of us collectively can benefit from. So Tracy, thank you again so much for being here with us and for sharing. You've been so vulnerable and authentic with us and giving us transformational tools to use as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Disruptors, let's land this. Calm is not passive. Calm is powerful. Clarity is not weakness. Clarity is actually your leverage. You don't need more hustle. You need a regulated internal system. Upgrade your mind, upgrade your leadership. Let's go on ahead and upgrade your life. Keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do become. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let Tracy know you heard her here. Send her a message on LinkedIn. Let us know why this episode has been transformational and how you're going to use Calm Clarity in your life. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye now.